um, so that people can catch up with it retrospectively. So, look, welcome tonight. Thanks for just jumping in and taking hopefully no more than kind of half an hour of your evening. My name's Matt Dando-Thompson. I'm the head of the talent pathway for Cricket Wales. Richard Almond, the head of talent development for Glamorgan, is currently flinging, but is potentially going to join us as well, depending on numbers. We had about 40 or 50 signed up to this, but given the low numbers on the live call now, I can probably take and field most of the questions that will come in. But Rich may well join us at some stage. But the point of tonight really is an opportunity for you guys, those of you especially who've tuned in and don't catch up on this, is a chance to kind of bring to life some of the comms you might have seen filter down into the network around the talent pathway, specifically the nominations, the two nominations processes that are now in operation to feed into the entry points of the pathway. That's with ourselves and Glamorgan. And we just want people to have a real clear understanding of what they are, how does it work, or maybe take some questions or explain some of the changes and why we've gone down this road. Um, so yeah, good opportunity to kind of talk through and articulate some of that tonight. So I think the first task, just given we've got a really small number, if you want to just pop in on the chat, kind of what role you're coming in as tonight. Are you a parent of a young boy or girl? Are you a coach at a club? It might be both. Just so I can kind of package this and tailor this to be as relevant as and as specific to you as I can. That would be really good. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, parent. Thanks. Welcome tonight. Cool. Another parent as well. We've got two Kellys. Claire, another parent, superb. Okay, so we've got a lot of parents, and hoping we'll have some coaches across the club network that tune into this as well at some stage. Um, and we can, yeah, thanks, Gareth, club coach and a pathway player as well. So, given the low numbers, what I would suggest is, normally we say to people, use the chat and put any questions in the chat. I think what I would like to encourage you guys to do, given we've only got 8 on here, come off mute, interrupt me at any point, and if you've got a question or a burning question that you want answered, or something doesn't quite make sense, just come off mute and ask, and we can make sure that you come away with some clarity. So, um, I'm going to start off with a couple of videos, and I'm hoping these videos won't be brand new because they will form part of the information that went out. But equally, before I kind of get into diagrams and talking you through how the pathway actually works, the video hopefully brings it to life in a little bit of a unique way for you. So I'm just going to get up and Trick, you're on my screen. So could you just give me a thumbs up if you can see a YouTube video enlarged there? Thank you. And when I press play on this, sound should work. So just give me a thumbs up in the first 2 or 3 seconds that sound is working. Thank you, Patrick. Cheers.
From the under 10 to under 12 age groups, Cricket Wales and Glamorgan will be implementing a new approach to talent identification. Previously, only clubs, schools and qualified officials have been able to nominate players, but this process sees us move away from nominations to a completely open trial system to ensure our pathways are fully inclusive.
From here on in, both organisations will host a number of skills and talent ID sessions that look to capture and measure attributes which could indicate high potential in players. These include attributes like balance, coordination and reaction time, as well as ball striking capability and some cricket-specific skills. Cricket Wales will host these sessions for boys and Glamorgan will host these sessions for girls.
These sessions will be held towards the end of the summer season and across multiple locations in Wales to enable players from all areas to partake in them. Players that score highly across multiple sessions will be invited into the Cricket Wales regional programme for boys or the Glamorgan early engagement phase for girls.
For players and parents that want to register their interest, we ask you to complete the Google form that can be found on screen or in the video description. That process is really important to help us understand more about your son or daughter prior to them arriving at a session. Cricket Wales and Glamorgan will communicate specific dates and venues of sessions nearer the time. We look forward to seeing you in action.
Okay. So that's where I'm gonna just start tonight's chat from, if that's okay. Amy Reese actually made reference there to the regional program for boys and the Glamorgan early engagement phase for girls. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk you through both diagrams for how the pathway is going to work for the boys side of things and then the girls side of things, and hopefully that video just brings that to life in a hopefully a pretty self-explanatory way. So again, sorry, Patrick, you just give me a thumbs up. You can see that PowerPoint in front of you if that's okay. Great, thank you. So if we're just going to start with the boys pathway diagram, if you like, it's probably the best way to visually convey and depict what a potential journey or the various strands within the pathway is going to look like. Really obvious point visually is that anything red, it's important to note, is kind of Cricket Wales, largely Cricket Wales' responsibility and led. And then anything that's in navy blue is effectively where Glamorgan have ownership and initial responsibility. So where the video is making reference to, we're talking the entry point to the pathway here is the regional program for the boys, and that goes from the under 10s to the under 14s age group. We know the vast majority will come in at the very starting point at under 10s, but equally, many times, many players over the years, you could come in at any age group in those as you develop slightly later at times. So we know there's a lot of different routes that players can come and enter the pathway from. So the most traditional one is typically, as we'd all expect, would be club cricket. However, it's something that that obviously we as an organisation are pretty aware of, that there's a lot of talented young boys and girls out there that aren't involved in club cricket. They might be in a number of the programs you might see on screen: street cricket, wickets programs, MCC hubs, just in schools, or any other potential avenues as well. So what we're suggesting is that Google form that was mentioned on the video, that's the major change for the entry point for those under 10s to under 12s, going into where you can see my cursor hovering over here, the regional cricket strand. So typically in the past, we would go out and we'd ask club coaches to nominate players for us and to effectively be the gatekeepers, is probably the word. A player wouldn't typically get nominated would it not be for a club coach. So I think we were probably limiting our ability to spec talent because it was largely coming from club cricket. We were probably not looking as far as we ought to be in the various different spaces that you can see on screen there. So that's one of the reasons. And probably the major reason is also trying to move to a space where entry to the pathway is a lot more equitable and it's a lot more transparent and it's a lot more fair. And what I mean by fair would be if I said to anybody on this call, what would you see as the kind of 2 or 3 most important attributes you'd see in a young cricketer? There's a very high chance that 5 or 6 of us might have 4 or 5 different answers, which is totally fine because we've all got a slightly different definition of what good looks like in any young cricketer, and that's through our own experiences, that's through our own coaching knowledge. And whilst that's great, the challenge that presents, if you amplify that across Wales, is there's a lot of different definitions in a lot of different spaces around what does a good, talented young cricketer actually do? What do they look like? So we want to standardize that. We want to streamline that definition a little bit more. And so that's why we've moved very much to players and parents nominating themselves into the pathway without needing to rely on a coach or somebody of a similar role to do that for you. We will then, as the video suggested, we will run some skills and talent ID days, certainly in the boys space for the regional program, as you can see, because that's in red. And those skills and talent ID sessions will be very generic. They won't be, Richard mentioned it on the video, it will be very basic, some coordination, some balance, some physical attributes, some cricket skills, and there will be plenty of cricket skills that we assess, but it will be reasonably low level. It won't require a huge amount of equipment, those types of things. And again, the reason for that is we want to try and pick up some some indicators that are going to suggest and indicate some high potential in players. And sometimes, as is what has happened in the past, um, if you see a young boy, for example, um, playing a great cover drive in the nets in an assessment, and you think, oh yeah, they look useful. They might, but equally, we don't know a lot about the context of that person and the young boy that maybe doesn't have any cricket equipment, but has got a lot of natural talent. We might miss that player because we're looking and we're comparing them in, kind of under the same rule, but they've got two different contexts. So um, I hope that makes sense in a roundabout way. I've probably not explained that as well as I could have. Um, but I'm just going to jump to the girls' equivalent of that. And if you take one more look at the boys' diagram there, just to remind us, we go from that Google form straight into regional cricket, which is Cricket Wales led. The main difference you can see on the girls' diagram here is that rather than going straight into regional cricket from that Google form, as Amy suggested on that video, you go straight into the Glamorgan early engagement phase, which is highlighted in blue there. So the early engagement phase is what is the first rung on the ladder for the girls in terms of pathway if you're coming in at the youngest age groups. And then as you work your way up through as a young girl, let's say you get to the end of the early engagement phase as an under 12, you've got potentially two avenues to pursue. You could be successful in progressing up and into the Glamorgan County Age Group program at under 13s, or you might not be successful in getting into the Glamorgan County Age Group program, at which point you drop into the Cricket Wales regional program at under 13s. So again, hopefully the diagram is reasonably self-explanatory. Really important to note these arrows are not linear. We know that it's not a simple journey straight to the pathway for every individual. There's every chance that many boys and girls will go up and down those various stages at certain points as they grow and as they mature. But effectively, the process, that Google form process, is more or less the same for boys and girls. We will house all that information and we will communicate out when we're going to run and operate those skills and talent ID days. And that's a lot of me talking for about 5 or 6 minutes. So I'm just going to kind of pause there because there's bound to be a couple of questions there, or if I've not explained it well enough. So please do come off mute or use the chat if anybody would like to query any of that or find out a little bit more.
Matt, it's
Hello, Kelly.
self-explanatory, thank you. I've completed the form that you make reference to, but I've had nothing back to say that you're, to show receipt of that form. So I don't know if you've received it. Do I need to fill it out again?
Yeah, really good question. I'm not sure Google Forms is able to do almost a read receipt, so to speak. As long as you've submitted that form, I have had a couple of queries saying, "Have you had it?" And it will be a very quick process for me to be able to do that. So, why don't you stick around for 30 seconds after this call finishes? I'll be able to tell you very quickly whether we have received that.
Thank you.
That won't be a problem. Thanks. Great. And good question. And Gareth asked a really good question, actually. So, as clubs, do you want to put the links out to all players, even though you may have lots of players applying? Gareth, that's a great question. So, the answer to that ultimately is yes. So, what we're looking for clubs to be here is champions and cheerleaders of it. So, rather than I'm not sure what club you're with, Gareth, but let's I don't know why Haverfordwest is the first club that springs to my mind in West Wales. It is the first club that I think of. But let's say you're an under 12 coach in Haverfordwest. Rather than in the previous years, you go, I'm going to nominate 8 of my under 12s. What we're looking to do is for the Haverfordwest coaches in the junior section to go to all of the players. This is the process. This is what you would need to do if you feel like you want to, or if you're that coach and you go, oh, you've got some ability. Have you thought about applying and filling that form out to get noticed for the pathway? That's the role we want club coaches to be doing. And then it's the onus is on that is on the player and family to do that. Um, and again, that's a little bit of a brave and a new approach. But equally, it's then on those players' terms whether or not they want to put themselves forward. And we've often come across young boys and girls that are nominated by their coaches, but actually they're also not quite ready to be in that pathway environment. And they've ended up having a really tough experience around some other talented young cricketers where they felt a little bit out their depth. And that's not contributed to them then dropping to club cricket, wanting to carry on. So that's also part of the reason we want players to be showing that initiative to nominate themselves. So hopefully that answers that one, Gareth. And the same will apply as we talk through the second process for the slightly older age groups as well. Um, Superb. And Gareth's putting, I'm just reading the chat with Menai, also especially with the girls staying off under 10s. Does that mean lots of travelling to Glamorgan? Gareth, do you want to just come off mute, sorry, and just bring that question to life for me? I'm not sure I quite understand that question. If possible.
Yeah, it was just a question, like, because if the girls are starting off on that sort of Glamorgan pathway,
Yeah.
are there sections in North Wales? Does that mean they have to travel to South Wales? I know one of our girls last year had a lot of travelling to South Wales, to do lots of training sessions.
Sorry, I've got you. Yeah, no, that makes sense now. Yeah, great question. So the detail of the finer detail of the programs, where they're happening, and all of the dotting the i's and the nuts and bolts of the program, yeah, they're still being worked through. So I probably can't give you an absolute categoric, this is exactly where it's going to be held, but there is absolutely the early engagement phase. There will absolutely be a bespoke offering in North Wales. Glamorgan have already made that very clear in our conversations with them as we've obviously kind of pulled this together. There's a very clear recognition that there will need to be in a similar way to how our regional programs operated with North Wales as well, and Cricket Wales North, that they need to have something that's accessible um, for as many corners of Wales as possible. Mid Wales is always the challenge, so I think that's also one for Glamorgan to work out what they want to do with that. But there'll certainly be a North Wales offering in that early engagement phase program.
Yeah, because that's always my concern with being in North Wales. We always seem to feel a bit out of it, and obviously to get into Glamorgan, you feel like you're passing Lancashire and Warwickshire and Worcestershire, all these other counties, and it just the practicalities, are going to be a stopper for lots of people. I have no idea how you get around that, but dream being such a big county, it just being in North Wales, you definitely feel out of it.
Yeah, I potentially say again, stick around for 1 minute, maybe after we finish recording, because there's probably some further context I can give you to that, which might make a bit more sense. But look, Glamorgan, without speaking for them, because obviously I want the Cricket Wales logo rather than a daffodil, but they're very clear that they want to be making sure that they're capturing the most talented boys and girls across Wales, and actually by definition that applies to North Wales as well. So the onus is on them to make sure that they are making sure that they're as accommodating and they've got a program that's accessible for you guys up there. So thanks for that. No, great question. Thank you.
Okay.
Claire's asking, interested in the difference between boys and girls. What's the reason for this? I've got a daughter who's 12 and is training. So it's Claire Brown, sorry. Are you referring to the difference in terms of entry points? So girls go into early engagement phase and boys go into regional program. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sorry. So sorry, apologies for no video, but I'm sat on the side of a hockey pitch with a really dodgy signal at the moment, so it seems to be not seeing my face.
Okay.
No, I've got a girl obviously on the girls' side. I'm just interested in those first stages. Just curious, really. The stepping stone from club to regional or Glamorgan. Why is the difference between the boys and girls at that early? What was it the EEP stage?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really good question again. So without waffling too much, so the girls' junior game, as we know across Wales, that it's exploded in lots of ways in terms of growth. If you're looking at national programs, All Stars, Dynamos, the girls' game is on a steep upward trajectory, which is great. couple of reasons why there's not a duplicate program alongside the Glamorgan early engagement phase is we think we'd be working with the same girls at this point in time.
Yep.
So we know that player pool is still growing. It's probably not grown to the extent where it will be in the next kind of 36 months, I would imagine. And what we didn't want to do was run before we can walk. And actually, the Glamorgan early engagement phase program is going to be, a well-run and well-organised program. And actually, it's going to be new for girls anyway. And adding on an additional program where there's potentially gone from one session to potentially 3 or 4 sessions a week across 2 programs for girls that we're trying to encourage to do different sports, do their studies, have a break, enjoy other things that is involved with obviously growing up, and very quickly we could actually turn girls off rather than gradually bring them through, which is the intention. So it's not set in stone. I think it's a bit of a this is what we're going to start with, and it really wouldn't surprise me if we get to a stage in, as I say, kind of 24 months. It may even be sooner, or it might just be either side of that. Then we see we might need something that supplements the early engagement phase program for the girls, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, so sorry, the second part of that was, so I've got a daughter who's currently 12, so currently playing Cricket Wales East. So that, for girls younger than her, that bit won't take place until they're 13. So
from next year, correct? Yeah.
So so from after this summer, in theory, she'd be eligible for regional and potentially Glamorgan as well.
Spot on. Yep, spot on. And what we've done, I'm very happy to forward it potentially into the team at the end of this session. It is on the main website article. We've attached an FAQs document as part of that news release. So I'd be more than happy to find a link for that and send it around as well. But some of those types of questions, Claire, are answered in those FAQs. So one of those questions typically is my son or daughter now, can they do the county age group program? Can they do the early engagement phase program? And the answer to that now is going to be no. You are a Glamorgan early engagement phase player if you're in the girls, because there's no other program. You then go into either the county age group program or the regional program. You're not going to do both. And the same for the boys. Whereas in the past, we've had county age group boys doing a little bit of both. You are either going to be a county age group player and you're involved in that program, or you're in a regional program with ourselves as Cricket Wales. So a little bit cleaner and a little bit simpler in terms of where and what and how players are deployed across both organisations, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. No, thank you.
No problem at all. Good question. Okay, so I'm just gonna conscious of time. That's kind of process one, if you like. So that's our under 10s to under 12s, as I mentioned in both diagrams. I'm just going to move us to one more video, if that's okay. Which I'm gonna, apologies, Patrick, lean on you again in a second, if that's all right. To give me a thumbs up. So where are we? Thank you. Yeah, YouTube, here we go. And hopefully just give me a thumbs up on sound as well. Thanks.
The Cricket Wales regional programme assessments are a key part of our talent identification pathway.
Most years over 500 boys and girls trial. Whilst this sounds great in principle, in reality, decisions regarding players were in some cases based on minimal observational opportunities and a small number of trusted eyes.
Recent research in the last few years identified how this can lead to errors and biases in selection decisions. The work highlighted how the current process did not allow coaches to spend sufficient time assessing each player, getting to know them and understand their developmental needs. As such, we are aiming to improve the assessment process by increasing the time coaches dedicate to each player, ensuring the players with the most talent are selected.
Previously, only clubs, schools and qualified officials have been able to nominate players. This year, the nomination process will be open to anyone who matches the entry criteria. How to apply will be outlined in the next video. Unsuccessful players will be given feedback on what we're looking for in our young cricketers and tips on how they can achieve them.
Successful players will be invited to multiple coaching sessions in the autumn, where coaches will have the opportunity to further assess players' ability and developmental needs. The trialists will then be informed of next steps and feedback on what we believe is best for their cricketing development.
This process is much closer to best practice, allows coaches time to make informed decisions, and helps remove biases, making the talent pathway in Wales that bit more accessible to all. We look forward to receiving your nominations.
Okay. I'm not going to play the final video if that's okay in its fullest extent in terms of sound. But as I talk you through, so I'll just play it ever so slightly. You can see that I'm presuming, and I'm just going to turn the sound off because I'm going to jump through it very quickly. But ultimately, the last video is part of this tutorial, and I am going to jump through it very quickly. It just goes through the various disciplines from seam bowling to spin bowling to batting to wicket keeping. And it's very clear in terms of what we need to see in the video nominations. So seam bowling is the example here. So the video is just to say, look, we need two from behind, we need two from side on, we need two, and the same for the batters, same for the wicket keepers. It will just talk you through. So whichever type of player you are, boy or girl, you would follow that tutorial video. You'd go down to it could be local nets, but equally it doesn't have to be your local nets. And I'm just going to stop playing that there just so I can see you guys. It could be ultimately you could do those videos anywhere. We had a lovely couple of examples, which I'm sure I won't name them because I couldn't remember them off the top of my head, but we had a lovely example of a player who was clearly living on a farm, or family were on a farm last year, who submitted a video of them bowling in a farm field. The player actually then, we liked what we saw from that video. They got invited to one of the physical sessions and made it onto the pathway. We had a player, really encouraging seam bowler, who ran in a really unorthodox angle because it was the shape of the curve of their concrete that was on their housing estate, and that's how they grew up and learned how to bowl. So it doesn't have to be in, a world-class sports hall or a, brilliant club with net facilities to be able to submit those videos. We want it to be really accessible, for any boy or girl, 13s to 15s for the girls and 13s and 14s for the boys. Again, if you think you've got talent, or you think you've missed the boat, or you want to try and have a go at pathway cricket, it's never really been easier to put your name forward. That's what we want to try and convey. So going back to, I think it was Gareth's question earlier on around, what role do we want clubs and club coaches to be playing? We want clubs and club coaches to be going, do you need help submitting your videos? We'll come and, we can put the camera here, you can use our nets, you can do whatever on a junior training night, come down and do your videos. That's the type of role we want clubs to be, facilitators of getting players nominated, but it's got to be the player that takes that onus, and the family and the parent that takes that onus on to nominate their son or daughter. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to go back to both the boys and the girls diagram here. So nothing's overly different. We're still talking about the entry point into the regional program here for boys. So as the commentary in the white box would suggest, all that's different is the under 10 to under 12 process is the Google form approach, and all that's different for the slightly older age groups in the 13s and 14s is the video nominations. And that's the key difference, in exactly the same way that the girls, again, under 10s to under 12s is the Google form process, and then the under 13s to under 15 girls, we're looking at those videos. And those videos, once we collate them, all of those video nominations come through to my phone, actually, on WhatsApp Business. So I tend to get kind of 400 to 500 pings across the summer, which keeps my phone nice and busy. But what we do, we collate those videos at the end of the deadline, which I think we've put as the 24th of August. And then what will happen is myself and then key members of our Pathway team. We often do bring an independent person in from outside of Welsh cricket to sit on our panel as well. And what we do with those videos, we will be in Sapphire Gardens for the best part of 2 days. We'll pretty much lock ourselves each in a room and we'll go through the under 13 girls videos player by player, for example, looking at a set criteria of what we're looking for. We'll grade those players based on what we see, and then we come together and we moderate those. We check and challenge, how what marks we've given. So it's trying to adopt a much better practice way where it's not one person, it's not two people making a decision on a player. There's 4 or 5 people invested in that conversation and process before we get to a stage of, yes, we'd like to see that player again, in a physical assessment before offering them a place on the program. So it's pretty robust. It's a lot more robust than what we've done in the past. We did run this process last year for the first time with, as I mentioned, with quite a lot of success. So we've learned a few lessons from that. And in a similar way to what we did last year, all of the unsuccessful players, we host kind of a generic feedback session online for players to understand a little bit more about what we're looking for on a technical level, to kick on and get themselves into the pathway. So again, I'm hoping that's reasonably self-explanatory, but very happy to take questions from here.
Hi, Matt. Can I ask a question?
Sure, Kelly. Thanks for coming off mute.
That's okay. My son is currently playing under 13s cricket, so he does go up next year. And I was just wondering, in terms of submitting the videos, he enjoys doing both bowling and batting. So do we send videos on both, or do you just rather we pick one? How does it work? What's the best way to do it?
You send us as much as you want to send us. If he's a batter and a bowler, or if he's a batter and a wicket keeper, we'd rather see a lot more, and we'd rather see everything that he does rather than just one. It's his opportunity to put himself in the best light as possible, if that's the way I can phrase it. So the more, the better.
Yeah. And then does he have to have somebody bowl in particular for him to bat? Or, should he be asking his club if somebody can bat for him for us to do the videos, or?
So I'd really encourage you. It's again really good question. I'd encourage you to watch that second video online, and again, it's all on the pathway section of the website. So that second tutorial, if you saw the seam bowling example there, it started to talk through. We need 2 balls from front, rear, and side. Same for the batters. It's very clear that tutorial video. It will say we need to see 2 balls from, I think it's 8 balls in total with a variety of shots. We don't want to see it from a bowling machine. We don't want to see it from throwdowns. It needs to be with a competent-ish bowler that can bowl balls at the batter. So it's if you haven't watched that video, watch that. I'm 99.9% sure that most of your questions around what to actually submit, that tutorial video should answer it for you.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
No problem. Great question. Anybody else at all? Feel free.
Hi, Matt. Yeah, just quickly, just in summary, really, just to make sure I've got it right. So you want videos initially. So you nominate yourself by doing the form. Have I got that right?
If you're under 10 to under 12.
Yeah. So the videos is only for the older age groups.
Correct.
They don't need the older age groups don't need to fill out a form. They just need to send the videos in.
Correct.
And then that will take care of itself if you select them or not. The younger age groups are nominations, and then details of the session will be sent out, where they are, time and date of the event, for those. Is that in a nutshell a brief summary?
That's it in a nutshell. If you're an under 10 to under 12, you fill that Google form out, you will be invited. It's not a question of, will I, not will I? If you fill that form out and we register you, you will be invited to more than one, and that's also a key element of detail, because we're actually going to measure and take some scores on those days. And we actually don't want it to be, every young kid, especially at that age, can be a little bit nervous. They've not done these tests before. So we're going to probably host 3 in multiple locations. So what we want is for players to have the opportunity to access 2 out of 3 of those days, so that
Okay.
we've got more than one sample of those scores effectively.
Yep.
So yeah,
That,
spot on.
that's good. So obviously that's self-nominating. There's things like the National Earth Finals coming up at the end of this month in Savannah Gardens. Is anyone from the Talent Pathway going to be there, for example? Because that could be another opportunity for somebody on the pathway to look out for talent, I suppose.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I don't know if it's that event, but I've had a number of events in terms of schools finals that have popped across my desk in the last week. One came in today, which is in Radda in the next month, I think. I
I
know
think
that's South East Wales, but there will be similar things across all of Wales. Um, I'm only one person, so I can't get to every single event necessarily. What we have done is we have communicated and we've held a number of meetings with our own internal staff as a Cricket Wales organisation. So, and again, this has probably not happened to this extent before. All of our staff that are in schools across Wales, all of our staff that are involved in club development, they're all very now, they should be, because we've done similar exercises like tonight. They should all be now very well versed in what this process is. And actually now it's the challenge for us, it's a good challenge, is how do we cascade that across far and wide across however many schools, however many clubs. So the roundabout answer to your question is, I don't know if anybody specifically from the pathway will be there, but whoever is there from a Cricket Wales perspective will have the same knowledge that I will, to be able to say to people, did you know this is the process? This is now
Okay,
what you
I
have
see.
to do.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah, I think
sense?
the national finals. I think the one in Radra, I'm guessing that is a little bit local. The winner or the finalist for that will get forwarded to the national finals, is my understanding, and that's in Savannah Gardens. So at the end of the month, 26th, I think, is years 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because we'd need to do the same for North and West and all of those, which is absolutely the
No,
right
no.
thing to do. So it's
My understanding, this is the national finals. So like every regional will hold their own competition. So for example, in Pembrokeshire's done the finals day. The 2 finalists will go to the national finals. So it's I'm guessing it's an all Wales thing, and the finalists from each region attends a national final.
Well, I'll check in with that, because I say I've got 7 or 8 dates have been put across us in the last few weeks. So it is all of these types of things. There'll be great opportunities to reinforce the message, the process, and make sure that I think my aspiration, probably not realistically in the first year, if we were to sit here in another 24 months, like we mentioned, with the growth of everything, I would love to be able to go into any primary school or secondary school in Wales and say to a PE teacher, do you know how to nominate a player, or do you know what the process is for a talented boy or girl in your school to get into the pathway is? I would love them to be able to, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where we want to get to.
Thank you.
No, pleasure. Good question. Yo Jess just says, hi, my son's currently on Glamorgan Pathway under 14, so we'll be under 15 next year. What's the process of selection for him? Yeah, good question, Yo Jess. I'd point you to the FAQs section. That is answered at the moment. So let me try and explain it. So if you're a current regional player now, as in you're in a summer squad for the boys or girls, you do not need to go through either of these 2 processes. We know who you are. At the same time, that doesn't 100% guarantee you a spot into next year's program. We're not in a position to say now on the 11th of June, just because you're in a summer squad now means you will automatically go into next year's program. Imagine the scenario: we pick up 20 talented boys in a certain age group that we've never seen before through this new process, and we want to take all 20 of them. We can't fit everybody from last year in, as well as 20 new ones. That's kind of the good problem that could arise. Probably not 20, I would imagine, but ultimately, we know what the current players in our program are about. We've worked with them closely over the winter, and obviously this summer coming. So nobody has to go through that process. If you were a regional boy or girl that was involved in our winter program just gone, but didn't make it into the summer squads, by definition, at this moment in time, you're not a regional player, so you would have to go through the nominations process, depending on your age group. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, Yogesh. And one additional one to that, again, without speaking for Glamorgan, obviously Glamorgan run the county age group programs, as you saw in navy blue in the diagrams. Glamorgan will run their own open trials process every year moving forwards for boys and girls, and that's to make sure that boys and girls within the regional program, even if they're not in that county age group program, they have the opportunity to put themselves forward and show Glamorgan coaches what they're about to try and obtain county age group selection. So we don't have the specific details of that right now. We're obviously in the middle of the season, but as we draw as the season draws to a close, you can expect some detail to come out on that from Glamorgan, and probably by ourselves as well. Some really good questions there. Thanks for that, because hopefully a lot of people will have similar ones across the network. I think that's all I kind of want to, at the risk of, I said 35 minutes, so we're encroaching on 45, so I don't want to keep people much longer. Can't remember who said about confirming their daughter on the Google form. So if whoever it was, I think it might have been Kelly. If somebody wants to stick around for 2 minutes as people depart, then by all means do that, and I'll happily check that for you. But yeah, last chance for any questions. Otherwise, we'll pause it there.